Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenny. It is not Tuesday, but it's Thursday, and I have therapy today. Oh my God, what a surprise twist. And I'm gonna drive there, and I'm gonna talk to you while I'm driving there. About a mental health topic today. Not just chronic illness, we're gonna go mental health. First, I just wanna address my appearance. While I do have a cool shirt on, it is Nirvana. I'm old enough to know who Nirvana is, so I can wear this shirt. I just took a shower, which is why I look like a drowned rat wearing a baseball cap, so you can just quit the judging right now. Just quit it. Anyway, so today I thought I would talk about something from my childhood because, well, okay, let me start over. I wanted to talk about OCD today, and there's so many ways I could go about talking about that, but I thought I would talk about what it was like for me as a child with OCD before like anyone knew I had it. My parents had no idea until I was an adult, and I was like, I was very OCD because I just see so many people mis-talking about it, and it drives me crazy. I hate it when people say like, just because they organize their crayons or just because they keep their place clean, it's because they're OCD. They have to do it because they're OCD. Some people do, but when people just use it because they don't know what it means and they just think it means if you like to be organized that you're OCD, which is totally not what OCD means. So I'm not gonna, because I'm driving, I didn't research stuff to tell you guys. I just decided to talk about this. I'm gonna keep it to my experience from my childhood, which is different than it is now. I can talk about OCD as an adult for me later, because I don't want this video to be forever. So as a child, I was very anxious. I just had a bunch of rituals and stuff. And the way, okay, I'll tell you, I'm trying to figure out the best way to organize this, my thoughts here, because I want to talk about the rituals I had as a child, but I also want to talk about what it felt like internally if I didn't complete those rituals, like what that felt like as a child. So, okay, so I'll start with the rituals. The earliest one I can remember was, I know it was in elementary school, I can't remember the age, but if I was playing outside in my yard, if I saw a car approaching, so I lived at the beginning of my neighborhood, but there was kind of a hill coming from the neighborhood to leave the neighborhood, and if I saw a car at the top of that hill coming down that was going to pass my house, I had to immediately stop what I was doing and race to my front door and touch it. And if I didn't touch it, by the time the car went past me, I pictured this massive granddaddy long legs getting me and my parents, and it caused panic inside me. It was like this life or death situation. I had to do it. It wasn't this fun game I had as a kid. It was just like, this is a fact. This is a thing I have to do. And I don't remember it ending. Like, I don't remember the day I decided this isn't a thing I need to do anymore. I just eventually stopped doing it, but I can't remember. I also had this clicking thing I had to do with my tongue, and I had to click it a certain amount of times. As a kid, I was really into even numbers. As an adult, I can't handle even numbers. I only like odd numbers. Even ones make me feel itchy inside. But as a kid, it was even. And I believe I had to click my mouth a certain amount, my tongue a certain amount of like even times in my mouth. My lucky number back then was 14, so most likely it was 14. But I'm not sure. I just know that I had to do this clicking thing, and it got like out of hand for me. It was really frustrating, and if I didn't do it, I get this itchy feeling inside. It's the only way I can describe it. It's like if you have a mosquito bite on your skin, but picture your mosquito bite filling the inside of your body. It's like in your veins. And if I don't complete an OCD behavior, it feels like that mosquito bite. It's like my veins are one big mosquito bite that are itching that I can't scratch, and doing an OCD behavior scratches that itch, if that makes sense. And so I also had one where I was really into card games on my computer, and to win solitaire 3 times in a row, or my parents would die, and I'd have to do that before bed. So sometimes I would go on for hours. I had to touch light switches a certain way. It wasn't that I had to flick them up and down a certain amount of times. It was that I had to touch them, like feel them. I had to feel a certain way when I was done using it. That was kind of the same for like anything that I did. If it had to feel a certain way, things did have to be perpendicular. Things had to be very put together in a precise way, but only certain things, not everything. I had this really big compulsion for a while that everything in the world was my responsibility in terms of past events, and that I had to pray for them then. So I went to church a lot as a kid, and for some reason I got in my head that, well, if God is all-knowing and knew that everything that's happening is going to happen, then he knew I would exist way past like Noah's Ark, way past the Holocaust, way past all, just any, I'm trying to think of like awful events that happened. Just the plague, I don't know, just events that were awful. And so he knew I would exist for way past those events. So I thought it was my responsibility in the present time to pray for the past events, because then God would know that I would eventually be praying for them, so he would help them end. And it's because I prayed for them centuries later. So I felt this enormous responsibility as a kid to have to pray for everything from the past, like constantly, in my head, constantly. And I also had this visual thing where I would visualize certain shapes and objects, and I had to visualize it a certain way, and for some reason it was really hard for me to get my brain to do it. So I'd have to sit there and concentrate until my brain could come up with the image I wanted, and it would have to fill a certain gap. It was like these shapes that would do certain things, and it would have to completely fill a certain space to the point where I'd stop itching inside. And I had to do that a lot. Eventually it got to the point where, well, okay, so then as I got older, it was a matter of when I opened cans, like Coke cans, I had to thump them a certain amount of times. I still do that. If I got on a plane, I had to tap the plane a certain amount of times, or bad things would happen. I still do that. If I went to a restaurant and like I would get this overwhelming feeling that I have to sit there. Like I have to sit in that seat. And if I don't sit in that seat, I'll itch the entire meal. And it's not like that's the better seat. It wasn't anything like that. It was a matter of just my brain decided you're sitting in that seat. And if I didn't get to sit in that seat, I would be physically uncomfortable the whole meal. And that still happens as an adult. There was a period of time in college where I felt like I had to like walk and retrace my steps exactly. I've been at stores and stuff with people. I remember specifically one instance when I was in a store with one of my friends. I think it was a gas station, and there was a bin of candy, and I couldn't figure out which candy felt right. It wasn't about the one that looked the best. It was like they all looked the same. I have to have a physical sensation that I feel that makes the internal itching stop, and once I've felt that sensation, I know that's the right candy. So I would have to touch every candy until I found the one that felt right. And that can be so paralyzing. So there have been times where I've gone in the store, and if I know that's going to happen, I will tell the person I'm with, will you please get this for me? I can't do it right now. Because I know it's just going to cause too much anxiety, and I'm going to be in there forever. And there's literally no logic behind it. There's no logic behind it. It's an internal sensation that's so unpleasant and so uncomfortable that I want to follow through these rituals. The ones that I had as a kid, the ones that like the running about my parents dying, things like that, those I get, you know, being a kid, you're growing, your brain's developing, you're learning how the world works, and a lot of kids have fears about things and the unknown. So all of that kind kind of the idea that I'm responsible for these people being alive. Eventually, I understood that that wasn't the case, especially once I manifested my anxiety and stuff into other control, into an eating disorder, which OCD and eating disorders go hand in hand, because my eating disorder had so many OCD rituals with it. So many, just in terms of I had to eat with a certain spoon, I had to wear a certain bracelet, this black rubber band on my wrist, I couldn't ever take it off. They would always change, like I would always get a new ritual that I had to maintain on top of other ones. I'm trying to think what else I did with my eating disorder in terms of like, not food related rituals, but just rituals in general. I can't think. Sometimes I would have to like flipping through channels, flip back and forth a couple of times with the same channel until it felt right. It was mainly just until things felt right. Now as an adult, I told you I do a whole video as an adult, so I'll do that later. I have talked in past videos about how as an adult, it's manifested more of a chaotic OCD. I still have like tics as an adult that I do and stuff like that, and the thing is the ones that are not impeding my life, not preventing me from doing things or succeeding, not taking up an extensive amount of time, like tapping a Coke or tapping a sparkling water can before I open it a certain amount of times. And I'll definitely tap the Coke can, I'll still tap a plane. Things that won't hurt me, that will ease my anxiety in a way that's not intruding upon my life, I'll still do those because I feel like they're harmless and they calm me down. There's so many things I still need to work on. I've never been formally treated for OCD. My doctors knew I had it, or like my psychologist and stuff, the psychiatrist, they knew I had it, but it's not like I went to therapy specifically for it. And there are treatment centers and stuff for people who deal with OCD, strictly OCD. I've never done that. So that's one of the reasons I didn't want to go into kind of the pathology of it, the word. Just all of the psychology behind it. Yeah, the psychology behind it. Because honestly, I would need to read up on it just to make sure I'm saying the right thing. All I can say is what my experiences were. But I was a really anxious child. The first time I was ever put on medication was when I was 17. I started Prozac for my eating disorder. I don't know if that had anything to do with calming down some of my behaviors, but they're definitely not as bad. But I still have this urge, like if I'm driving and something feels internally wrong, I'll go a different direction. A lot of that is intuition, and honestly, it can be hard to distinguish intuition from an OCD behavior. I'll have to check in with myself. But if you have ever felt intuition and what that feels like, I guess it could be different for everyone though, because I know what intuition feels like for me. It's very similar to the itchy feeling inside that I get with OCD, but I know that the intuition thing isn't something that like it has to be done or for it to go away. It's more of like a internal compass to tell me whether or not to do something. So that, I don't think that counts. I don't know, I brought that up. I'm trying to think if there's any other stuff. I'm probably gonna remember a whole bunch of stuff later. I know I had like little things I had to do. Tradition. I'm very sentimental. I'm very tradition oriented, and I think that is anxiety based. And I don't know if that, I think that would be considered a little bit playing into my OCD, but it's not like a specific behavior that I had. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm sitting in traffic on the 5. Why is there traffic at 11 a.m.? I'm trying to get to the bank for my appointment because I have to pay them. I owe them money and they only take cash, and I realize I don't have cash on me, so I'm hoping I can get to the bank first. Yeah, I guess that's all for this video. If you've experienced OCD in different ways, let me know. Write down below, because it's interesting to me how people's brains need to experience something in order to be okay. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but how everyone's brain interprets things differently and processes watching, and I will see you whenever I decide to film a new video.